I met your friend. Well, I know your friend Dave at Barrister Cigars. His wife is
Mhm.
your wife, and he kind of got me as to become a Drew Estate guy, right?
Yeah.
And I want to focus a little on probably the best line ever made, the Liga Privada, which I understand had a little something to do with.
A
Give us a
little
little
bit.
about the generations, in terms of pre Liga and then
Yeah,
post.
look, Drew Estate was essentially Drew Estate was this up and coming company.
Yeah.
It had started as essentially a kiosk at the World Trade Center,
Oh wow.
down on the bottom floor in the malls. Just hawking cigars, and it really, even through the boom, and they kind of came in at the tail end of the boom as far as
Yeah.
the company really was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They weren't really very successful with anything traditional.
Yeah.
But they had this one product called Acid, which was really unique.
Yes.
And Acid was essentially their horse.
Yes.
And that's what they had. And everything else they had tried, most of it had like a limited amount of success, but ultimately it was all pretty much a failure.
Yeah.
And I ended up joining the company with the intent of doing two things. They wanted me to bring some gravitas to the traditional side of things,
Yeah.
or to get them to make traditional style cigars and ultimately hope to make those successful and
Yeah.
add to the company portfolio. And then also to kind of be the adult in the room.
Yeah.
Because look, it was a very, I have to describe it to people. I don't know if you remember that MTV claymation show,
Yeah.
Match.
Yeah.
That was pretty much Drew Estate on a day-to-day basis. It was pretty much craziness all the time. So
Oh wow.
I was pretty much hired to be the adult in the room at that point.
But you a few things. So the one is you led it through tumultuous times, like ledge of bankruptcy, all this other stuff.
Mhm.
But then also when you kind of exited, you exited before a big exit, and
Yeah.
you kind of brought it to a really healthy place, hence the exit or being
Yeah, no, we grew that company from this kind of wacky tobacco, small, disorganized kind of company into a really functioning. We became the largest manufacturer in all of Nicaragua.
Yeah.
We had at that point we had the hottest brand in the country on the traditional side, and we also had maybe arguably the number one selling cigar on the just period. Acid was neck and neck with Romeo and Julieta.
Oh wow.
Company. Yeah, it was doing really, really well. And I'm sure it's still doing really well. The thing was, look, it was a hard 8 years.
Yeah.
And my wife hated Miami. And so I was there for 8, but she left after 6.
To New Hampshire, right?
Back to New Hampshire.
Yeah. Dave told me the story.
And and I tried to grind it out for another year and a half, and it just wasn't working on a personal level.
Wow.
Factories in Nicaragua, you got Drew Estate in Miami. It's, even though we're doing well, it's an all-in 100-hour-a-week kind of job.
Yeah.
And and I got my wife living in New Hampshire, and I finally just one day went in and say, guys, I gotta go.
Wow.
And they tried to talk me out of it wisely.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like I was coming in and saying, hey, I need more shares in the company to stay.
Yeah.
You need to pay me more money or any of those things. I was just saying, hey, guys, I've made a good faith effort here. This just isn't for me. Plus, two, they wanted to get into all sorts of other stuff. They wanted to get into mass market cigars. They were looking at getting into cigarettes, snus and hookah and all this other stuff. And it's just not my area of expertise. Okay. And how am I supposed to be the chief executive of a company in a segment of a business that I just really didn't have any sort of affinity for, passion, or even any expertise? Now, you would argue that a professional, C-suite executive, that would matter what the business is, right? They're a professional C-suite executive, but I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm a cigar guy.
Correct.
Who became a C-suite executive.
That's why I asked that before,
right? So for me, it just wasn't a good fit. So it was kind of like it was time. And I had also had this thing happen a year before. I was on a farm in Jalapa, and I was talking to a farmer, and he had this. He used to grow in a big cooperative, and I used to do a lot of business with him. But he decided to strike out on his own.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like, man, Juan, why are you doing this? This doesn't make any sense. and he said to me, Saka, it's better to be the head of a rat than the tail of a lion.
Oh, wow.
And I just kept rattling around in my brain, is it not better to be, 100% in charge of everything, even though you're a shitty